The morning she was left standing at that altar, the wind smelled like dust, iron nails, and a promise I've been too long afraid to make. I reckon a man don't get to my age without carrying ghosts. Mine ride quiet. They keep pace along the fence line at sundown, and they sit with me when the coffee goes cold. Years back, Missouri boy turned trail hand. I drifted west till the prairie looked like the inside of a prayer. Empty, endless, still. Folks say the open country heals you. Maybe. It also leaves nowhere to hide. I'd come into town for flour, coffee, a new length of wire. Sheriff was John with the blacksmith, and the church bell tolled like a cracked pan. Weddings bring out perfume and lies. I near kept to my business, but something in that bell had a hitch to it, like a mule refusing the bit. I hitched my team and followed the crowd. Inside the place smelled of pine boards and Sunday pride. Every bench packed tight, heat rising off bodies and whispering. I took a place in back, hat low, hands rough with last week's barbed wire. Up front stood the preacher and a long, pale fellow, nervous jaw, righteous boots. He looked like a man who loved himself more than he knew how to work. Then, her red dress, laces pulled mean, breath fighting the cloth. She walked the aisle like a soldier carrying wounds you can't see, and every step set folks to buzzing. I've seen coyotes circle a calf. Same sound. She kept her chin high, though the room tried to bend her. Lord help me, that kind of courage cuts a man clean through. I ain't noble by trade. I'll fix fence, break horses, and keep to my coffee. But I know cruelty when it stinks up a place. The groom turned at last, looked her over like a buyer at a stockyard, and said it, one word, sharp as a spur. No. It hit the rafters. The preacher's voice dried up. Women gasped. Men smirked, and that fellow pointed at the girl like she was a busted plow. Said he'd rather work alone forever than be shacked to that. Laughter from the back like bottles breaking. I felt it in my jaw. Some pains are old. They flare when a man forgets his raising. He stormed out. Doors banged. Sunlight knifed through the dust and shut again. Folks commenced their two-bit reckonings, talking over one another, fat with other people's shame. The girl didn't move. Might have been carved from red clay. I could see the fight in her and the tremble underneath it, same way you can see a storm line low on the horizon. That's when the sheriff came stomping down the aisle. Mustache bristled, voice like a hardpan road. Contract this, agreements that. He spat out words like nails, then hammered a bargain no man worth his boots should have to hear. 50 acres east, and 10 hay besides, to any fella who'd stand up and take her. Silence first, then the ugly math. Men shifted, looked at the land in their minds, then at the girl. Heads turned away. Somebody snorted. Somebody said, not for 100 acres. I heard chairs creak as backs leaned from responsibility. I could have stayed quiet. A man can watch a house burn and call it a sunset. But out where I live, we mend what's broke, else the wind makes a liar of you by supper time. My chair scraped loud. I stood up. I'll marry her. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't brave. It was the only honest thing in a room full of bargains. Head snapped around. I walked slow, boots thudding the way truth does when it decides to show up late. The sheriff met me at the rail, eyes squinting like he'd found a snake coiled in his hat. You accept the offer? 50 acres, 10 head. Keep your land. I said, keep your cattle. The quiet then, It was a different kind. The kind you hear right before a horse sets to bucking. The sheriff's brows tugged together. Then why? I didn't answer him. I turned to her. Up close, I could see where the laces bit into her, where the mirror of that red dress hadn't been kind. But I also saw the set of her shoulders, the way her eyes held steady, not begging, not pleading, just waiting to see if the world had one decent man left in it. If you'll have me, I said. My voice came out low, like it had learned to be gentle all at once. She searched my face for traps, found none. Slowly, she nodded. That small motion felt like a gate opening on dry hinges. The preacher rushed through his lines like a boy late to supper. I didn't kiss her. Some tenderness ought to be earned, not claimed in front of gossips. When the words were done, I told her we were leaving. We stepped into the light together. The door thumped shut on 100 small cruelties. I set her in the wagon careful. Hand steady, not lingering. A man knows the difference. Reins in my grip, I drove us out where the road thins and the sky fattens. She kept quiet, looking straight on like you do when you ain't sure if moving forward is mercy or another kind of hurt. I didn't talk. My throat was full of things that didn't belong to the public street. The burying, the empty cradle, the old house that learned to echo. A widower learns his silence same way he learns his prayers, one long night at a time. At the ranch, I showed her the room off the front. Bed, quilt, a little window over the field. Told her we'd talk come morning. A line needs posts or set before you string the wire. She nodded, brave past the shaking. I left the door with a mind to give her distance, and maybe myself a chance to breathe like a man who'd just done right. Outside, twilight laid a purple bruise on the hills. I leaned against the porch rail, felt the ache in my old break from a bronc that didn't like me much. The cicadas tuned up. The house behind me held a second heartbeat now. I brought home a stranger out of a church full of wolves. Truth is, I didn't save her. I did what I hope another man would have done for the woman I lost. Had she been standing alone in a room like that, maybe that's all healing is, mending the world where yours once tore. The wind carried a little church dust with it, and the smell of rain that never quite comes. Funny how the prairie remembers what the town tries to forget. By first light, the house smelled like coffee and wet rope. A little storm had licked the porch in the night, then moved on, leaving the boards dark as saddle oil. I set a tin plate and a biscuit on the table, then stepped back from the doorway to her room and knocked soft. "Breakfast," I said. "No, take your time." She answered quiet. I caught the scrape of chair legs, the rustle of cloth. When she came out, she held herself straight, the way folks do when they're trying to learn a new name for their life. The laces had chewed her the day before. The red dress sat on her like armor that had already seen battle. I handed her a paring knife. "You can cut those ties if you want. Ain't no jury out here but the wind." For a breath, she just stared at the blade, then nodded and slipped back inside. I heard the slow, careful rip of thread, one stitch at a time. When she returned, she wore my old flannel, rolled at the sleeves, and a skirt from the cedar chest that never did hold much but winter. She looked relieved, a little raw around the eyes, but relieved. We ate without rush, biscuits open, steam rising like prayers that didn't need words. After, I set a bucket by the pump and told her about the way the mornings go. Horses first, then fence, then the slow list of a place that don't keep itself. She nodded like a student, but kept rubbing the marks the laces left. I pretended not to see. Some pains go easier when a man don't name 'em. Out of the corral, I showed her the paint mare with a kind eye. She'll carry you easy, I said, if you let her know you're listening. Like people, she answered, a half smile settling in. We saddled careful, hands close, then apart, words simple. Sun climbed. She stepped up and swung a leg, wobbled, then set her weight and found the seat, the way a truth finds its own height. I walked alongside as the mare circled, soft as a hymn. Every now and then she glanced down at me like she couldn't quite believe the ground had agreed to keep its promise. When the chores laid down, we took the shade of the barn. Dust hung in light like ash. That's where the past likes to show up when a man's hands are quiet and his heart's got room to be crowded. I reached into my shirt and touched the thing I swore not to use anymore. A locket, leather cord, dented where a fall once put a horse on top of me. The hinge still good, though. I could feel the shape through my fingers the way you can feel a scar in winter. She got a name, the girl asked. Her voice didn't pry. Just laid a blanket near the fire. May, I said, 2 springs, younger than me. Meaner than a wet hen if you called her soft. She'd sing while Chopin onions and make a man cry over stew. I opened the locket. The picture was just pencil, quick as a kiss. May sitting on the porch rail, hair tucked up wrong, eyes laughing at something I must have said right. Next to it, a smudge that was once a baby's curl. We lost him first. Fever ran through the county like a bad habit no one could quit. We carried water, wiped cool cloths, watched the color leave him the way the sky loses blue in a sandstorm. After the hill got its small marker, May wouldn't sing to the onions anymore. She looked out past the far fence, like a train was always coming and never did. I took to fixing everything I could hold, I told the girl, because I couldn't fix what mattered. I could still taste the dust of that afternoon, the one where thunder stacked over the ridge and May wouldn't come inside. She stood in the rain, hair coming down, mouth set like a gate you don't push. Storm broke a cottonwood, and the lightning took her like it had paid in advance. I put the locket back under the shirt. The skin there's permanent tender. That was a while ago, I said, though time out here falls and drifts. I ain't been good company since. She looked down at her hands. New lines. Old story. My daddy taught me to keep myself small, she said, each word like a stone taken from a pocket and set on the table. Said men want what fits inside their desire. Mama pulled my laces tight and told me to smile. I smiled. And yesterday, the whole town told me my size was a sin. We let the quiet sit. The mare flicked an ear. Far off, a hawk rode its circle on the sky where nobody could erase it. You didn't do nothing wrong, I told her. My voice came out rough. Some men don't know how to stand next to a blessing without trying to whittle it down. She studied me, holding back tears like a dam holds a river, only because it's learned how to be hard. Why'd you say yes, she asked, barely above the hum of flies. I could have said 100 noble things. The truth is smaller and heavier. Because I've seen what being left does to a heart, I answered, and because I've been a man who let the wind decide his choices. I wanted to put one thing right before the end finds me. We worked the rest of the day in the slow comfort of tasks that make sense. Water hauled, cinches checked, a sagging panel set back in place. Every so often our hands would meet over a knot, and we both pulled back like it burned. It didn't. It warmed. I felt it in bones that had figured their season was past. Toward dusk she stood at the fence, eyes on the red miles. "Do you ever think peace is just pretend?" she asked. I walked up beside her, leaving a boot length of space that still felt like a promise. "Peace ain't pretend," I said. "It's shy. You gotta sit quiet till it comes close." She nodded. The sun slid down and set fire to 1,000 specks of dust hanging over the pasture. We watched without talking, like folks who'd shared more in a day than some manage in a year. My chest ached the honest way, not the broken way. Back in the house, she paused at the doorway to her room. "Thank you," she whispered, like the words might spook if she said them loud. "Sleep," I said. "Morning brings what it brings." When the latch clicked, I sat at the table, turned the locket over in my palm, and set it down. The wind nudged it once, then left it be. Some memories don't fade. They just learn to sit in the light without taking the whole day. Funny thing about grief, it don't end. It just stops demanding to go first. 3 days passed easy as a creek under cottonwoods. Chores, small talk, silence that didn't scratch. Oh, she learned the mare's moods. I learned the cadence of her breath when she slept through the wall. Peace showed up like a shy colt, stepping closer, sniffing our hands. Then town called. We needed flour, salt, a hinge for the gate that sagged like an old man's back. I hitched the team. She climbed up beside me, hat brim low, hairpin plain. The road into town runs straight, then crooked where a dry wash cuts it. I kept my eyes on the ruts. She kept hers on the sky. "Don't have to go," I said. I do," she answered, soft but steady. "I'm tired of hiding from rooms." That settled it. A man can stand in front of trouble, but he can't walk away from a woman finding her feet. Main Street wore its usual face. Laundry on lines, dogs asleep, the hammer song from the smithy. But when folks saw us together, the hammer missed and rang wrong. Talk swept the boardwalks like broom straw. We tied off at the post outside the mercantile. She squared her shoulders. I pushed the door. Inside smelled of sugar, damp sacks, and iron. The clerk's smile died before it lived. He cut his eyes at her, then at me, and found his manners late. We picked up what we came for: flour, salt, coffee, hinge. Every scoop made the room quieter. Then the door banged. The past walked in with polished boots. The groom, buttons too bright, chin too sure. 2 friends behind him like fence posts. He looked my wife over as if 3 days had turned her into something else he could price. "What's this?" he said, the charity case out. "Buying like she belongs here?" I felt my fingers tighten on the sack rope. He climbed my neck. She stood still, jaw firm, eyes level. He moved closer, slow, tasting his little power. The clerk found a shelf to reorganize that didn't need it. "You hear the funniest thing," he told the room. "Sheriff says there's a contract on 50 acres east. Says a certain gentleman claimed a wife to cash it in." He let that hang. The words were bait. Men in the store leaned, hungry to be fed a lie they could chew. I set the hinge on the counter. "Keep your voice small," I said. He smirked. "Everybody knows what you are. A widower with a dead house and a busted heart, trading her for land." I turned toward him. The years put a weight in a man's stare. He tried to hold it. He couldn't. I said, keep your voice small. He laughed then, high and thin. Maybe she don't know. Maybe you forgot to tell your bride why you bothered. Her breath hitched. I heard it like a twig snap. The room tilted. I opened my mouth, but she was quicker. You're a coward, she told him. Her voice didn't tremble. Not because you left me, because you made the town your witness for it. The room went still. He flushed. I saw the swing coming before he did. Fists make promises mouths can't keep. I caught his wrist midair, turned it down, and put his knuckles to the counter quiet. No show, just a reminder. I don't take land. I said I don't take cattle. I don't take what ain't given free. He yanked back, embarrassed. His friend shifted, like they might try something dumb. I moved just enough to make the space feel narrow. Men reconsider dumb when they can't breathe. The sheriff pushed through the doorway, then mustache loaded, eyes already tired of men. That's enough, he said. I don't want to sign paperwork over flour. The groom jabbed a finger. He's cheating the county. He married her for the deed. The sheriff looked at me, then at her. Did you take the offer? No, I said. The girl lifted her chin. And if he had, that would still be worth more than the price you put on a woman's dignity. A murmur rolled. Something old cracked in that room. Some plank of meanness that had held up the roof too long. The sheriff scratched his jaw. I can confirm it, he said. Papers unsigned. Land stays where it is. He gave the groom a look you save for boys and drunks. Move along. That might have ended it, but shame flails before it dies. The groom spat, a thin line of temper on the floorboards. You'll be back begging when he tires of you, he told her. Men like him don't keep charity long. She stepped once, closing the distance no one asked her to. Men like him, she said, choose. Men like you. Audition audiences. The words lay clean as a brand. He tried to shoulder past. I let him. The door wheezed. Air came back to the store slow, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. We paid. We left. Outside, the sun felt different. Hotter, but honest. On the boardwalk, a woman I'd never met tipped her brim at my wife. Small gesture, big storm easing. We loaded the wagon. My hand shook, not from fear, from wanting to hold back every hurt that would ever find her. That's a fool's want. The world don't bargain with men, or it does and lies. Halfway up the street, she stopped, turned to me. Did you marry me out of pity? The question landed soft. Soft ain't easy. No, I said, and it came out too fast. I swallowed, looked away, looked back. I married you because I couldn't stand one more day of watching good go down to bad without putting my body in the doorway. And because, when you walked that aisle, you reminded me what brave looks like. Her eyes glossed. She nodded, but I saw the nick the rumor had made. Trust is leather. It needs oiling and time. We rode home quiet, the heat lifting off the road like spirits. At the ranch, a storm banked over the ridge, stacking blue on blue. I fixed the gate with the new hinge while she set jars on the shelf. Wind picked up. The smell of rain came in like a memory that didn't knock. Across the pasture, thunder rolled its shoulders. Past catches up. It always does. The trick is how you let it pass through without letting it stay. That storm hit like old guilt, loud, sudden, and unwilling to leave quick. Rain slammed the roof till the nails sang. The house went dark, except for the lamp on the table, flame leaning sideways in the wind. She was at the window, arms folded, watching the water carve lines in the yard. "You get used to storms?" she asked. "No," I said, pouring coffee. "You just stop asking them to go easy." Thunder cracked. She flinched barely. I could tell she hated that she did. "Lightning don't hit the same place twice," I told her. "That's a lie," she said, and I didn't argue because she was right. The lamp guttered. She turned, hair come loose, eyes bright, with something halfway between fear and fight. "Do you ever get tired of pretending you ain't lonely?" she asked. That hit deep. I set the cup down, looked at the flame, then her. "You ever get tired of pretending you ain't hurt?" We stood there, storm outside, silence inside, both of us learning the weight of truth said out loud. The wind rattled the porch like it wanted in. I took a step closer. The air between us changed, smelled of rain, cedar, and something holy that don't need a church. "I ain't looking for pity," she said, "and I ain't offering it." Lightning flashed, caught her face soft. For the first time since that church, she looked like someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to be loved. The power of it near broke me. I reached out slow, brushed a wet strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't pull away. Not that time. We stood like that, time stretching thin, till the lamp gave up and left us in the kind of dark where words don't carry lies. Her hand found mine, small, warm, trembling. "Why are you kind to me?" she whispered. "'Cause kind's cheaper than cruelty and worth more." She leaned in, forehead to my chest. I felt her breath through the fabric, shallow, alive. Outside, thunder rolled off, leaving the low hum of rain and the sound of two people remembering how to breathe. I wanted to kiss her. Lord knows I did, but love after ruin don't come with permission slips. It has to ask quiet first. I just held her till the shaking stopped. Later, when the storm drifted east, I stirred the coals in the hearth. She was sitting on the rug, legs folded, watching the last sparks like they were fireflies. "You ever think maybe all this pain was just leading us here?" she said. "Maybe," I answered, "or maybe the good Lord just ran out of ways to test our stubborn." She laughed low and real. That sound did something to the air, turned it light again. We dried the floor, hung blankets, patched the leak by the chimney. Work is its own forgiveness. By midnight, the house smelled of smoke and bread. I fixed a loose shutter. She brushed the dust from the windowsill. Not much talking, just moving together like we'd done it before. When she yawned, I said, "Get some sleep." "You?" "I'll sit out a bit. Rain's good company if you know how to listen." I went to the porch, coffee tin in hand. The world looked washed clean, like even the ghosts had taken a bath. I could see her shadow through the curtain slowing as she lay down. I thought about May and the boy and the storm that took him. Thought about this woman inside, sleeping in the same house with a man she barely knew, trusting him not to break what the world already had. Some men call that luck. I call it a second chance disguised as weather. Morning came soft. The sky hung low and kind. She was on the porch when I woke, hair loose, wearing my flannel again. She had coffee ready. "You don't sleep much," she said. "Old habits. Nights get heavy if you let 'em." We walked the fence line together, fixing what the wind had knocked down. She held nails. I swung the hammer. Our talk drifted easy. Names of horses. The stubborn calf. The neighbor's mule that hated rain. Somewhere between posts, she said, I didn't believe men like you still existed. I smiled at that. We don't, mostly. Just the broken kind learning to mend. When the last wire sang tight, she wiped her hands and looked east, toward the land her ex-fiancé wanted. You think they'll stop talking? Town always talks, I said. But after a while, they start talking about somebody else. She nodded, looked at me a long time, and smiled that small, shy smile that felt like sunrise after too many nights. We walked back slow. The world smelled of wet earth and apology. Maybe peace ain't a place. Maybe it's a person standing beside you when the storm breaks and staying after. Weeks turned gentle. The grass came back thin, then thick, drinking what the storm had left. The air smelled of mesquite and slow forgiveness. She took to singing sometimes while she worked, half a tune, nothing showy, just enough to let the house breathe. I'd catch myself listening from the porch, the way a man listens to rain he's waited too long to hear. One evening, while the sun bled out behind the ridge, she came up from the barn, straw in her hair and a smile that didn't ask permission. You ever dance any more? She said. Not since the war, I told her. She wiped her hands on her skirt, held one out. Then it's about time. The yard was still muddy in spots, but the wind had dried enough to stir dust. I set my hand at her waist, careful, as if touch itself could bruise. We moved slow, without music, just the creak of boots and the hush of breath. The last of the light caught in her eyes, and for a moment, I swear the years fell off both of us. I ain't good at this, I said. You're fine, she whispered. You just forgotten how to let joy lead. That hit home. Joy. I buried it so long it felt foreign on my tongue, but there it was, leaning against my ribs, asking to be remembered. We stopped when the stars showed. The sky looked close enough to touch. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Do you miss her? She asked. Every day, I said, but it don't hurt the same. Feels more like gratitude now. She nodded. Didn't push more. Just stayed there, both of us breathing the same quiet air. Later, I stoked the fire while she sat on the steps, humming. I thought about all the roads I'd ridden trying to outpace the things I couldn't fix. Turns out peace wasn't waiting at the end of any trail. It was sitting in that chair, looking at me with eyes that believed in starting over. The next morning, I saddled the mare for her. She wanted to ride to the creek alone. I handed her the reins and said, Don't go too far. She smiled. If I get lost, I'll follow the sound of your worry. I watched her disappear between the cottonwoods, sunlight catching the red of her skirt like a flame that refused to die out. The wind lifted her laughter and carried it over the pasture. That sound stitched something in me I didn't know was still torn. When she came back, she found me fixing the old fence again. You're always mending things, she teased. Gives the day a reason, I said. She leaned against the post. Maybe someday you'll let somebody mend you. I didn't answer. Didn't have to. She knew. That night, the sky burned clear. The Milky Way stretched like spilled salt across black velvet. I poured 2 cups of coffee, handed her one. Here's to second chances, I said. She clinked her cup against mine. And to the fools brave enough to take 'em. We sat long after the coals cooled, talking about little things, horses, rain, the shape of tomorrow. Every word felt light, like it knew where to land. When she finally turned in, I stayed a while, listening to the coyotes far off. The wind brushed through the porch rails, whispering things I used to be afraid to hear. I thought about May, about the boy, about the woman sleeping inside this house now. Life don't replace what's gone. It just finds new ways to be kind. I tip my hat to the stars, muttered a thank you to whoever still listens, and smiled. Funny thing, peace don't arrive with trumpets. It comes on quiet boots, sits down beside you, asks nothing but a place to stay. And maybe love ain't about holding on. It's about learning to let go gentle.